Terror against America. Bombers launch a murderous 1-2 strike against U.S. embassies in East Africa. President Clinton vows justice however long it takes.
We will use all the means at our disposal to bring those responsible to justice.
On another front, a federal appeals court finds merit in the Clinton White House claim of illegal leaks by Special Prosecutor Ken Starr.
This is the CBS Evening News, with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Americans were the targets today as terror struck with no warning halfway around the world. 2 huge bombs exploded outside 2 U.S. embassies in East Africa. Tonight, 81 people are known dead, including at least 8 Americans. More than 1,700 people are injured, and more victims may be buried in the rubble. The bombs went off within minutes of each other in Kenya and Tanzania. The worst carnage was in Nairobi, Kenya, where gunfire was heard just before the bomb exploded. One of our most experienced CBS News correspondents, Susan Spencer, is there tonight. We warn you in advance, the pictures are graphic.
The blast in Nairobi came in the late morning when the streets around the embassy were crowded with people who instantly became casualties.
It's a bomb. I was just closing number 11.
The explosion flattened the building next to the embassy complex and tore through cars and buses on the street outside.
Yeah, there are some people that are dead.
It was immediately clear that Americans were among the dead and injured, some left wandering in a state of shock.
There was a bomb blaster on the back end of the embassy, I believe.
It is the worst thing I've ever seen. When I was in the United States, there was the Oklahoma City bombing, and this reminds me of that.
The embassy security guards tried to establish order after the worst had already happened, but the scene quickly turned to chaos as survivors and arriving volunteers scrambled to rescue the injured and clear away the dead. So many dead that for a while today, it seemed no one really was counting.
How many have you seen so far yourself?
In this vehicle, we're having about 20.
In Tanzania, where the second bomb exploded within minutes of the first, it was the same scene on a smaller scale. A bloodied American security guard stood post outside an embassy torn open by a car bomb. The crater was clearly visible in the parking lot outside. In Kenya, where the death toll was much higher, the early hours of the rescue were hampered by a lack of coordination and equipment. Bystanders were shouting orders to rescuers, who tried to pull out as many survivors as possible using their bare hands.
There are lots of people who are alive, who are trapped between the concrete. What we actually need is to mobilize cranes that can move concrete.
Adding to the shock of these terrorist attacks is the fact that this sort of thing isn't supposed to happen here. Kenya and Tanzania have good relations with the U.S., and that has many people here pinning the blame on terrorists from the Middle East.
This is part of international terrorism. Obviously, innocent Kenyans are dying.
Rescue workers and investigators are expected to be here on the site all night, while local and U.S. officials spend their night identifying the dead and notifying relatives. Meanwhile, many Americans may well spend this evening pondering the mentality behind one of the worst acts of anti-U.S. terrorism in years. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Nairobi.
Late today, the U.S. Army identified one victim of the Nairobi bomb. He was Sergeant Kenneth Hobson from Missouri. The U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Prudence Bushnell, was slightly injured. No one has claimed responsibility for either of these attacks. Within hours, the United States dispatched medical teams and investigators to both Kenya and Tanzania. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin has the latest from the Pentagon.
Teams of intelligence officers and FBI agents are on their way to Africa to search the crime scenes for evidence that might lead them to the culprits responsible for what Secretary of State Albright says was an especially vicious pair of attacks.
The aim was clearly to murder and to maim as many innocent people as possible.
Officials fear evidence already has been damaged or lost in the chaotic aftermath. Additional Marine Guards are being sent to help secure the crime scenes. So far, no one has claimed responsibility, and no local terrorist group is credited with the ability to pull off what is believed to be a first. near simultaneous bombings in 2 different countries.
This appears to have been a very well coordinated, very well planned attack, clearly not the work of amateurs.
They chose as their targets buildings which the State Department's Thomas Pickering says had little or no defense against bombs.
These were embassies that would not meet today's current security standards.
Both buildings were hit without warning, although several months ago a number of informants had walked into several U.S. embassies in Africa and warned them they were about to be attacked. One obvious suspect is a group called the Egyptian Islamic Jihad, which just 3 days ago sent a statement to an Arab paper vowing to punish Americans in a language they will understand, meaning violence. Another suspect is Osama bin Laden, a rich Saudi Arabian exile who bankrolls terrorists. As recently as May, he called on his followers to mount attacks against Americans. Also, sending informants to warn of a possible attack, as happened in this case, is believed to be one of bin Laden's tactics, which he uses to gauge the extent of the security measures the State Department is prepared to take. Dan?
David Martin, thanks. One of the world's most experienced Middle Eastern correspondents, CBS's Bob Simon, has more now on a suspected mastermind of a string of terror attacks against Americans.
Saudi Arabia used to be considered safe for Americans, as safe as Kenya or Tanzania. That changed quickly one day in 1995 when a car bomb exploded in the Saudi capital of Riyadh, killing 5 Americans. And in case that message hadn't been received, a truck bomb went off 6 months later outside a barracks in Khobar, killing 19 U.S. servicemen. The prime suspect in both bombings, a Saudi citizen named Osama bin Laden. He's worth at least $200 million and is believed to be using his fortune as a trust fund for terrorism. In the 1980s, he fought against the Soviets in Afghanistan. Then, he started trying to topple the pro-American monarchy at home in Saudi Arabia. He fled to the Sudan in 1991, and when things got too hot for him there, he went back to Afghanistan, where he is today. His reach is believed to extend far beyond the Persian Gulf. The FBI thinks he bankrolled the bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993. When terrorist Ramzi Youssef was arrested in 1995, he was staying at a guest house paid for by Osama bin Laden. And that promise of revenge against Americans made this week by Egyptian Jihad? The leader of that outfit is believed to be residing in Afghanistan right now, along with his colleague Osama bin Laden. This May at a news conference, Laden himself renewed his threat against Americans, a threat taken so seriously that the State Department ordered security tightened at embassies throughout the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. Of course, there seemed no reason to worry about Nairobi or Dar es Salaam. Bob Simon, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
An editor's note, while suspicions are many, facts are few about who may be responsible for these bombings. As we've all learned in earlier cases, first suspicions sometimes prove to be unfounded. For his part, President Clinton vowed the United States will hunt down the terror bombers wherever and whoever they are. More about that from CBS News White House correspondent Scott Pelley. Scott?
Dan, the first question the president asked when he was awakened before dawn this morning was simply, who did it? He didn't get an answer, but later in the day, he vowed that he would.
These acts of terrorist violence are abhorrent. They are inhuman. We will use all the means at our disposal to bring those responsible to justice, no matter what or how long it takes.
One advisor to the president acknowledged it could take years. The history of U.S. success against terrorism is mixed. Terrorists were convicted in the World Trade Center bombing and in the shooting of CIA employees outside the agency's headquarters. But the biggest cases remain unsolved. 1996, 19 American servicemen killed by a bomb in Saudi Arabia. 1988, 259 killed in the bombing of Pan Am 103. And 1983, 241 dead in the bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut.
I have ordered that the American flag be flown at half-staff at all government buildings here at home and around the world. We are determined to get answers and justice.
Mr. Clinton telephoned his embassy officials in both countries. The president is said to be not so much angry as simply determined to find the killers of what one official called these brave Americans. Dan?
Scott Pelley. Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, we'll talk to a man who has a lot of experience investigating terrorism, Jim Kellstrom, former assistant director of the FBI. Also ahead, a judge rules that Ken Starr's office does appear possibly have violated the law in dealing with grand jury information. In Texas, the heat's still on, but money for helping the poor is gone. And at 71, this man is putting people half his age to shame. A legal setback today for Special Prosecutor Ken Starr in the U.S. Federal Appeals Court. The court agreed with President Clinton's lawyers and said an investigation is warranted into whether Special Prosecutor Starr may have broken the law. It's against the law to leak secret grand jury testimony, and perhaps he did it on more than one occasion, the court says. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer has that story. Bob?
Well, Dan, there's no question the White House got a break today. In court papers released tonight, an appeals court said there is evidence that independent counsel Starr may have violated grand jury secrecy laws in the Monica Lewinsky case and gave federal judge Norma Holloway Johnson the green light to press on with her investigation. In a written opinion, the three-judge panel said Starr and his office appear to be the source for numerous broadcast and newspaper stories and said the burden of rebutting the case will lie with the independent counsel, who must now come forward with evidence in whatever form the district court requires. In other words, it will be up to Starr, who often chats informally with reporters, to show he has not been the source of illegal leaks about the grand jury investigation. Starr has always denied leaking information to the press, and tonight his spokesman said the office would welcome an investigation. White House aides were pleased with all of this, of course, hoping it would cast new doubt on Starr's motives. For sure, it is a new complication, as Judge Johnson must now decide how to investigate the Starr investigators. Dan?
Bob Schieffer in our Washington Bureau. Results are in tonight from a CBS News poll taken since Monica Lewinsky's testimony to the Ken Starr grand jury. 63% of those polls said even if there was wrongdoing by the president, it would have been better for the country if the Starr investigation into Mr. Clinton's personal life and whether he lied about it had never started. Half blamed the president's political enemies, not the president himself, for creating the current situation. A federal health advisory panel today recommended full U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval for Arava, as we first reported here last night. It's the first of a new class of drugs for rheumatoid arthritis. The FDA advisory panel says Arava relieves arthritis pain and other symptoms and can actually slow down joint damage. The sizzle backed off a bit again today in the Texas drought and heat wave, at least for now, but a month of triple-digit heat has left a simmering need for relief for the poor. Emergency appeals are now in for more federal aid. As CBS's Jim Axelrod reports, this comes as many cannot afford to buy even an air conditioner, let alone pay to run one.
They've been lining up before daylight by the hundreds, hoping for help.
My electricity might be turned off today if I don't get this help today.
Dawn Ethel. But after weeks of blistering weather,
it was like 104 in the house,
and growing worries about high electric bills,
it's $400 and some.
The heat and hard luck finally got the best of Houston's poor.
I don't have enough income and I can't pay the $739, and they're cutting my lights off today at 4. I have 3 disabled babies at home. I have a breathing machine.
Oh, God, there's desperation every day.
Robert Phillips runs the charity that's passed out $3 million in federal relief. Tonight, the money is gone. The need is not.
People's organs are cooking inside their body throughout the day if they don't have air conditioning.
About $1 million of the money from Washington went to buy air conditioners, a mountain of them, 2,200 in all. Problem is, in Houston, they need 30,000. This woman got her air conditioner.
Very glad.
Now, with no sign that Washington will send more money, she is not only one of the lucky ones, she may be one of the last. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Houston.
The General Motors strike threw tens of thousands into temporary unemployment last month, but the government says the overall jobless rate held steady at 4.5%. Well, Friday couldn't come soon enough on Wall Street. In the final session of this turbulent week, the Dow managed a 20-point gain. So the Dow finishes the week with a net loss of 285 points and is now about 740 points off its all-time high. For the year, the blue chips are still ahead 8.7%. Still early in the investigation of the bombings in Kenya and Tanzania today, the FBI is, by law, the lead U.S. agency looking for answers. So late today I spoke with Jim Kellstrom, former assistant director of the FBI, who investigated, among many other cases, the World Trade Center bombing. He's now a CBS News consultant. How did this happen? How can a terrorist group coordinate their efforts and make such a, from their standpoint, successful strike? Most of the time, embassies are very well protected.
But, the notion of protecting and hardening every U.S. interest in the world, making every embassy have setbacks and barricades, and it's just absolutely humanly not possible. From the initial look at this building, it looks like vehicle traffic could come within 10, 15 feet of the building. So it's tough to protect against that.
You're the FBI agent in charge. You're sent to investigate. Where do you start? How do you operate?
Well, first off, I want to get the right people over there. I want to ask the whole world, friends of ours, our allies, the intelligence community around the world, put your ear to the ground and find out, do we know anything about this? Have there been threats? Let's put all the possibilities up on the board.
Our intelligence places its maximum effort and spends most of its resources on technology at the moment, which is understandable. It strikes me that technology is not likely to give you the kind of information you need to solve this sort of case, but you tell me.
Well, I came from a technology background in the FBI, so I'm a big proponent of technology, but the notion that we're going to protect ourselves and our interests and our citizens around the world with technology and not human beings, not dedicated professionals that risk their life, really, for the sake of Americans and for tranquility in the world, we must have those. We need to put back together the Central Intelligence Agency.
Jim Kellstrom, thanks. Coming up next here on CBS, we will end this week down at the beach. We were reminded again today that the world is filled with all kinds of uncertainty. But there are a few things you can rely on. There's the sun rising each morning. And then there's the man CBS's Harry Smith found toiling beneath it.
Jones Beach. New Yorkers know this is the place to be when the city begins to simmer. Some come to sunbathe, others come to swim, even if they don't know how.
They go out, and all of a sudden they're over their heads and they can't swim. I said, don't you know that this thing goes down as you go out?
Reggie Jones is a lifeguard.
Isn't this sand nice?
He's been on duty here every single summer since 1944.
The older lifeguards work here at the East Bathhouse. They jokingly call it Jurassic Park.
But Jones is nowhere near extinction. Lest you think 71 is a little long in the tooth to be saving lives, consider this.
I usually do about 35, 40 of these every day. Good, Harry, try one of those.
No thank you. The young guards hold him in awe.
Still strong as an ox.
And it's easy to see why. Watch Reggie shuttle a guard boat solo into the heavy surf. Impressed?
It can get a little choppy out there.
He guesses he saved at least 1,000 lives over the last 55 years and credits his old Irish mother for saving him from the grease pit of his father's filling station.
Reggie, why don't you go down there and try to be a lifeguard at Jones Beach? You're a good little swimmer. I said, Ma, I'm not that good. She says, you don't know if you don't try. Get out of here. The old man will have you in the grease pits for life like an indentured servant.
Reggie got the job, much to his father's chagrin.
And my dad says, you mean to tell me they're giving you $25 a week to sit on a stand and watch the girls walk by? I says, yeah, beats working in the grease pits. I think she's got dental floss for a bikini.
After all these years, he still doesn't mind the scenery. But Baywatch this ain't, says Reggie.
I don't care if you're Mark Spitz. If you're up here looking at the girls walking by or looking over your shoulder, not paying attention, what good are you? Watch the water.
So Reggie watches the water and walks the beach. He never meets a stranger.
I'm here 55 years. I got 44 cents an hour when I started.
Most of us have cherished memories of an ideal day at the beach or a lazy summer at the shore. Reggie Jones is the guy who figured out how to make summer never end. Harry Smith, CBS News, Jones Beach.
Yep, beats working in the grease pits, and that's part of our world tonight. Sunday on Face the Nation, Bob Schieffer's guests include two former White House chiefs of staff, Howard Baker and Leon Panetta. Now here's Steve Kroft with a look at what's coming up Sunday evening on 60 Minutes.
An American war hero and one of the Vietnamese civilians he saved from certain death 30 years ago at My Lai meet for the first time. Also, a story about the cleanup after an industrial accident. Who cleaned up? The lawyers did. It seems they always do. 60 Minutes, Sunday.
And we hope you'll join us again Monday for the CBS Evening News. Till then, Dan Rather reporting from CBS News World Headquarters in New York. Good night.